everyone. We have our next guest, Udoka. Welcome, Udoka. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Dama. Thanks for asking.
Good, good, good. It's good to see you. Always good to see you. Before we get into the nitty gritty, tell us more about yourself, where you go to school, and some of the things you do for fun.
So my name is Udoka Mazakwe, but everyone calls me Doka, formerly known as Udoka. As everybody of my parents and like everyone who knew me before college called me. But yeah, I'm from Long Island, New York. I'm also from Abuja, Nigeria. I moved to Abuja, Nigeria when I was 10 years old, and I lived there for 7 years. As Nama mentioned, me and her went to secondary school together, so we went to school together for like 6 years. And then after that, I came back to the States, came back to New York on Long Island, and went to undergrad. I went to undergrad at Stony Brook University, and there I was pre med, took one gap year, and now I'm a medical student at Temple. In terms of like some things that I like to do for fun, I'm very into like doing my own hair. Before I really didn't know how to like do braids or like do twists or anything like that. Another fun fact that relates to Noma as well is when we were in school, we didn't have hair. Like our hair was like, yeah, our hair was like, insert picture, our hair was like the level of like boys or whatever. So like, I guess coming to college and being able to finally have a say in what I do with my hair, that definitely was something that was like exciting to me. So then that's how I kind of got into hair. I'm definitely not no like kind of professional or anything. I could never do anybody else's hair. It would probably take me like 3 days, but I love doing my own. It's something that like I just really like doing. Other hobbies for me, I'm pretty basic. I like Netflix. I like Hulu, all those kind of things. I love watching my shows, and
You
I
make
like.
TikToks. You make great TikTok videos.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Because the TikTok thing has to do with hair or med school. But yeah, I make. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh my God, I guess I'm like whatever. So I make TikToks. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have two pages. One page is like my med school page. It's called Doka Cat. Wasn't supposed to be a med school page, but it became a med school page. And
Yeah.
then my real baby, my real like soul, is my hair and skin page, which is called my crown and skin, which is mostly just hair stuff right now.
Yeah, they're both great. Love them both. Follow them both. Let's get to med school, applying to med school. Firstly, why did you want to become an MD?
Okay, so when I first was interested in being a doctor, that was probably like second grade, third grade. My dad is a doctor, he's internal medicine. So I always kind of liked the idea of like, oh, healing sick people, which was like the most basic form of medicine that you think of when you're that age. But I definitely didn't stay there. I kind of bounced from different things I wanted to be. I wanted to be an architect at a point in time. I wanted to make clothes at another point in time. Like I wanted to be like, what's that thing that you did? Biomedical engineering. I wanted to be a biomedical engineer at a point in time. So I kind of went back and forth. I even wanted to be a dentist at a point in time, but definitely came back and settled on medicine. And I think the root of that probably is just my love for the human body. Um, it's like basic, but it really is the truth for me. I really did love learning about the human body, learning about the systems, and then kind of the idea that you can alleviate someone's suffering, or even if they're not suffering, just make someone's quality of life better for themselves through the knowledge of medicine, through the knowledge of research. That was very appealing to me. So that's kind of like my most basics and reasons for being interested in medicine. Just kind of reading like different books about from by different doctors and kind of learning about the impacts that they've had on their patients. I'm like, wow, like I can kind of use the knowledge that I like learning about to impact someone's life to the degree where like they're significantly better because of your interaction with them. That's something that really appeals to me. So that's kind of me as a teenager, right? Then me coming back to the States, coming to college at Stony Brook University, I kind of learned more about what it means to be a black person in America. Because fun fact, in Nigeria, everyone's black, so you don't really you didn't know. So you don't really think about race that much. Of course, I did live in America before I was 10 years old, but you don't know much when you're a kid. You're just like Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves and all that kind of stuff. You don't really know the details of the experience of a black person in America. So coming to college, going to Stony Brook University, a state school in New York, I learned more about what that means, and I learned about the relations of that to healthcare. So that was kind of like another like reason for me to go into this because I'm learning about all the different health disparities, all the different like socioeconomic factors that determine health, and seeing, wow, like this is something I like to do, and there's definitely a need for someone like me in this field. So that definitely increased my like reasons for wanting to go in. Another reason has to do with representation, just in the fact that kind of starting off as a pre-med at my undergrad Stony Brook, and you have so many people who want to be doctors, like, and you guys are all like, trying to make it and taking Gen Chem and Orgo and all those cases. And then as time goes on, people start dropping out, not because they're no longer interested in medicine, but because they genuinely feel like they can't do it. And that's something that really like spoke out to me. Like if you knew me when I was in college, I was definitely the kind of person that was always throwing out resources, like pre-med resources, things that could help people get into med school, even though I was obviously still learning how to do that myself. And it's kind of just because if you don't want to be a doctor, like that's fine, but it wasn't sitting right with me when someone no longer pursued it because they thought they couldn't. So I think that's something that is like another reason for me to go into medicine, because just being in a position of mentorship and like helping people who want to achieve this, like really believe in themselves and like actually go after what they want. So in the short answer, that's that. I definitely have like a bunch of reasons. I can't pinpoint it to a single fact, but that's
Yeah.
a few.
Yeah, and your last point, representation, is a big part of the reason I started this, is because I think for me personally, applying to medical school, one thing that kind of deterred me a lot of times, even recently, maybe a few months back, was just feeling like my numbers were not good enough, or I wouldn't feel comfortable being in a space where I will be one of few as opposed to one of many when we were in Nigeria, as you said earlier. And so, talking to people and listening to stories of people who are living testaments and look just like you and have similar numbers just like you or have similar backgrounds like you is super encouraging. So, you living your life and you living in your purpose is already that representation that people coming before you are going to be so inspired by to see. So yeah, I love that you said that. I love all the other reasons that you mentioned as well. Wanting to alleviate sickness and wanting to be there and be caring, and also your love for biology and your love for the human body is wonderful as well. So now let's move into applying for med school. When it comes to stats and numbers, we always talk about how there's no set acceptable number, there's no set acceptable score. And that's like also kind of, there's also a huge curtain behind that in the sense that people who feel they have lower numbers or lower GPA scores or lower MCAT scores rather don't feel like they have a chance of getting in. Myself included, sometimes I feel like my numbers and my stats are not good enough. So if you could please share with us your GPA, your MCAT, and how you kind of position yourself to get into medical school and what you think really helped get into med school for you.
So for me, I would say, being completely transparent, my undergrad GPA was a 3.9 and my MCAT score was a 512. So I had good stats. That being said, I would say like the way I was like a very like different person in the sense that I kind of came into undergrad like really with the set goal of like wanting to go to med school, and I was the kind of person that like anything I don't know I'm gonna find out. So that was like literally my first semester, talking to literally like what's they called seniors in med school, like no seniors in undergrad who are applying to med school, asking them what should I do in this school to put me on the right track. I was the kind of person who like went to like my pre-med advisors regularly, like what should I do? Like I didn't even know what research was, but I found myself in a research lab my freshman year. There's really no reason for that, honestly. I was just doing the most. If you're gonna be real, like I was just doing the most. Honestly, my definition, like undergrad me, was just doing the most. I definitely feel like I studied way too much, and I was studying very hard, but not smartly. So I really could have like enjoyed my life a lot more if I kind of just honed in on my study methods and not kind of just stuck to the one thing that worked, because the one thing that worked took me a very long time. Um, that being said, in terms of like stats and GPA and like the things that I had to do to get to med school, I really did a lot. And for me, undergrad was hard for me. And the thing is, I'm sure because you're interviewing different people, you're getting a million different stories. But my story is that undergrad was hard for me in the sense that like I had to study a lot to kind of know the information. And that's just kind of, even now in med school, that's just how I am. I have to study a lot before I know it. So I would say like everyone's gonna have like a different story. I go to school with people who literally said college was the best time of their lives. Like, different experiences completely, but we're still all in the same first year med school class. Um, so that's kind of like where I was at as an undergrad.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, undergrad was also kind of challenging for me as well. I think mine for a different reason in the sense that I didn't feel like I had a community to study with. And even like a pre-med community because I was an engineer. Most of the people I was studying with were most of the people in my circle were in that engineering path and not working towards med school. So I almost kind of felt isolated sometimes when it came to studying. I had one or two friends that were on the same path, but it just wasn't the same. Which is why when we reconnected, I think like every time we spent like hours talking about medicine and we spent hours talking about medicine and med school and pre med, like
Yeah.
literally every time. Yeah, because I just feel like you're someone that I feel just understands. You're someone that I wish I had like in my community when I was an undergrad because we would have really I feel like supported each other in that space. That's actually a good segue into the being in med school versus applying to med school. We work hard to get to the point where we break that barrier and get into med school. You're finally in your first year. How has it been for you? How has your experience been so far? How do you deal with balancing your studies with things that you're passionate about outside of medicine? I think that's a big thing that I would like to know personally. I like to think of myself as a multi hyphenate. I like to do many things. Period. I think of myself as a multi hyphenate, and so I would like to believe that there would be some time for me to do things outside of studying and outside of working towards being a physician, even though it's a very important thing. So for you, how do you deal with that as a med student?
So, okay, yeah. So being completely transparent, I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't have that together yet. I don't. Med school is, as you know, very hard, and I feel like I'm still in that space where I'm still trying to figure out the best forms of studying for me that will enable me to have like a little more free time outside of studying and whatever the case may be. That being said, I feel like you have to have some non-negotiables, I would say. So like for some people, their non-negotiable is exercising 4 times a week or every day. Like it doesn't matter what's happening, I'm gonna exercise because this is my reason why I'm doing it, and med school's not gonna take that away from me. I feel like I didn't set like definite non-negotiables, but they kind of came up to me as I was in med school. Like I realized like cooking is my non-negotiable. Um, I can be sad, I can be stressed, but I'm not gonna be hungry. Um, I'm not gonna be hungry. And plug like if you're a med student and you qualify for food stamp, get food stamps, right? So food stamps, obviously you can't buy like fast food with it, but you get a lot of money. I mean, for one person, I think it's a lot of money to buy your groceries and stuff. So it's like I use that, but groceries you gotta cook them. So for me, like a non-negotiable is cooking. Like you just kind of have to like plan it and do it regardless, because it's like there's always going to be another lecture you have to watch, always going to be another assignment you have to do, or whatever the case may be. So I feel like if you set your non-negotiables, if your non-negotiable is I'm always going to hang out with my family on this time of this week, then you're just going to fit it in and it's just going to work, because it's like brushing your teeth. It's like, I mean, I would hope that that's non-negotiable for everybody. It's like taking a shower, like hygiene. But honestly, in med school, yeah, like you never know what could happen. So like for me, things like cooking, things like talking to my sister, well, my younger sister at least. Things like I wouldn't say like the TikTok is really non-negotiable because I really abandon that once like school gets hard. But those are my current like non-negotiables, I would say. But like I said, I'm still honestly working on it. I don't mean to be negative, but that's honestly where I'm at right now.
I appreciate you for being honest. Honestly, you're getting better every day. This is your first time doing med school. So I think another thing that I'd like to ask you with regards to establishing that balance is how you deal with the sacrifice and not the negatives, but the things that push people away from pursuing a career in medicine. Sometimes it's the long hours, sometimes it's the 8+ years of being in med school. And for you right now, there's a big shift in what you're giving your time to and what is required of you. And sacrifice is sometimes not easy, especially when um, you have to deal with delayed gratification and knowing that your reward is going to be very, very, very far. You're nodding and you're like, yeah, your reward is going to be a little far away. Um, and you have to deal with maybe being a little financially unstable compared to you have to do
No,
with
no,
being
it's not that funny. It's not that funny. It's not that funny because
you have to sometimes deal with being maybe a little financially unstable or just deal with being away from your family, and that those things can be really hard, and those are honest things that we need to talk about because people deal with them daily, and it's important that you have the tools and the community to support yourself with those situations. So how do you deal with the amounts of sacrifice you have to make in this path, you know? It's more than a job because it takes up a lot of your life. So how do you deal with that sacrifice?
yeah, so it's definitely like what you said is correct. I'm happy that like you're discussing this because it is something that's really important, and I feel like it's something that like if it's your reason for not going into medicine, that's a good reason, you know, because it is like you said, it's a lot of sacrifice. You're dedicating your life to service, and like even the process of being in med school is a huge sacrifice within itself. There's like your time is so restricted. There's so much that's required of you. So I'm really happy that you're like discussing this because it is like very hard. But I would say for me personally, some days it's kind of picturing the life I want for myself in terms of what I want to be doing when I am an attending. You know, I know that I want to be treating patients. I know that specifically, like the kind of specialties that I'm interested in, like I would be happy in them. So I'm kind of just like, okay, yeah, this is the delayed gratification. Also knowing that like this suffering to an extent in some ways is temporary. And I say suffering because that's what it is. Like it's to an extent it's suffering, like and it's like temporary in terms of like I'm not always gonna be like broke. I'm not always gonna be like um have to like study every single day all day. You know what I mean? It's temporary. So that kind of helps me, that motivates me sometimes, so kind of imagining where I want to be, like, and that I know, knowing that I need to work hard to get there. That kind of motivates me sometimes, but other times that's not enough. Other times you just need to honestly just do it. Sometimes, like, it's not every day you're gonna feel the motivation. It's not every day you're gonna feel the dedication, but you kind of just have to trust yourself and trust the decision you made in terms of coming to med school and just doing it. Because honestly, sometimes I do feel like a robot. Like sometimes I wake up and it's like, "Ugh, I don't want to like study," but it's like if I don't study, look at the result, you know. So it's not every day that you're gonna really feel all the passion and motivation. Some days you just have to trust the decision you made before and just do it.
I love that you said that sometimes like even having the vision or envisioning life for yourself is one thing, which is wonderful and that is good to keep you in check. Knowing that I want to help patients, knowing that I will be helping patients rather, that I will be whatever specialty it is that you want to be. I think also community helps as well. Having people that understand you, having people to lament to, friends inside of medicine and friends outside of medicine too. Having their support is a great thing, and I think also not to like plug this in, but like also like representation again is also a huge thing. Seeing people that you admire living a life similar to yours does a lot for redirecting and keeping you in track. Just knowing that someone has been through this before me and somebody is in a better place and I can do this. And like you said, it is temporary. It is uncomfortable, unfortunately, but it is temporary and it does get better. Things do get better and the reward is worth it. Yes.
That being said, I also wanted to add, like, you kind of just reminded me, like, in addition to like having community, like, I think that's really, really important because, I mean, obviously, I don't know where I would have ended, how I would have been, or people I would have met if I went to another medical school. But I do think, like, my experience here, like, as much as I'm saying it's hard, it's hard, it's hard, it's hard, it's hard. It's not like I'm really not that like sad, just because, yeah, like I know, like I have friends. It's like, yeah, I know I have friends that are doing the exact same thing and we're all on this journey together. So that definitely helps a lot. Even in undergrad, as you like kind of mentioned, like all my friends were pre-med, really. Like most, like I would say 90% of my friends were pre-med. So we were all on this journey together. So that definitely, definitely helps because it's like when you're feeling bad, you can call on that person who knows what you're going through. When they're feeling bad, they can call on to you. So that's important. Then something else I was gonna say was also sometimes this is the kind of mindset I've adopted now. I don't know, but like okay, I'm really not gonna be like an attending until like 10 to like another 10 years, I think. So like maybe a little less than 10, maybe like 8 or 9. So like I think it really has to be. It can't be a mindset where I'm always just looking at the goal because the goal is so far away, and like who knows if when I achieve that goal, I'm even going to be happy. Like, what if I like get there and I'm like, oh wait, and I'm still not happy? You know what I mean? So I think part of it also is just finding joy in your present. You know what I mean? So like finding joy when you go to school, finding joy when you're not going to school. Obviously, definitely planning out times for yourself to have fun, like whatever is fun for you, because like you need to definitely enjoy your journey there because when you finally reach there, what if like everything you thought it was going to be is not what it is, and now you're looking back at your life like, wow, my whole 20s, my whole youth was leading up to this moment that wasn't even that. So I definitely feel like, look, like having goals is great, but I think the idea of goals itself is kind of built on like where I am now is not good enough. It's not like a place for me to be happy. So it's like you need to be happy. You need to try and be happy. Try and find happiness at every step of the way because I can't wait 12 years to be happy, you know.
Yeah, living in the present moment, one day at a time. I love that. I love that so much. And that is a great segue to our last question, which is one day this phase will be over. Currently, like you are like you've been saying, since you are in your first year of med school, what are things that you're looking forward to as you continue in medicine, as you once you graduate from med school? What are some things you're looking forward to?
As I continue med school, I'm actually very interested in starting rotations. Because honestly, the first 2 years of med school, or at least at my school, the first year and a half is like a continuation of undergrad, just a lot harder. It's still classes every day, it's still lectures, it's just harder. So it's like the only time you really get patient interaction, like real patient interaction, is if you shadow at this point in time, or maybe if you're doing research that involves patients. So like I'm actually excited to do what I came to med school to do, which is treat patients, and that starts when you start your clinical rotations. So I'm excited for that because like upon speaking to like third years and speaking to fourth years, the way they describe it is very beautiful. At the end of the day, like as a med student, you get a lot of like you're in a lot of rooms, and I feel like when you're in rooms like that, you're just like, why do I even have the right to be here? You know what I mean? Like if you're shadowing like OBGYN or you're on an OBGYN rotation and you're watching people in their most vulnerable moments, like you're watching people assisting people in some of the most defining moments of their life, like the birth of their child or the treatment of a life-changing disease. It's really is, I think that really is beautiful. Because at the end of the day, it's like the average person can't be there for certain things. Like the average person can't just walk in and watch open heart surgery. The average person can't just email someone and get to witness gender affirming surgery. So I think it's like really incredible things that like obviously you only choose one specialty, but I'm interested to see like the different ways medicine can really just change people's lives, impact people's lives forever, save people's lives. And I'm interested in like witnessing that. So that's something that I'm looking forward to in terms of my continuous journey in med school.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. And I'm excited for you to have those experiences. I'm excited to hear about them later. Um, my last question. I'm sorry, that was not the last question. I
Oh,
just
yeah, it's fine.
remembered one more thing. So now let us channel some advice to the generations and the people coming after you. What is one piece of advice you would like to share with pre-meds that are still applying to med school, high school students who may one day watch this video? What is one thing you want to pass on to them? It could be something supportive, a piece of advice, or something very, very honest. Wait, let's keep it honest here. That was good.
Something I would say I wish I did more on my application journey was kind of, I guess, not losing hope if I don't get the result I'm expecting. So, like, I personally, like, being honest, who cares? I definitely thought I was gonna be like, highly sought after candidate. I thought every school was gonna be like, and that just wasn't my experience. And there's a lot of things that go into it, the time you apply, different things. But like, that just wasn't my experience. Like, upon like I remember April 30th was like the day, and it's my birthday too. Like that's the day that you can kind of lock in like your top school of your acceptances so far, and then you have to like drop all your other acceptances, and then like after that you can only remain on waitlist. So for me, I like only had one acceptance by that day. So it was like a whole cycle had gone around. I had interviewed whatever, whatever. And by the day that like people were like dropping their 9 acceptances and choosing their one, I had one acceptance. And it was at a school I didn't want to go to. I didn't want to live there, like in the state where it was. So that kind of definitely decreased my morale because I went into the application thinking that I was going to be like so sought after, that I was such a stellar candidate, and then that was just where I found myself. So kind of just not allowing things like that, unexpected things like having to apply to med school again, or not doing well on the MCAT, or just not being exactly, not getting the response that you're expecting, just not to take it personally, and just to remember that everything happens for a reason. As you know, I'm a Christian, I'm very religious, so I feel like everything happens for a reason, and I'm always going to end up where I'm supposed to end up. The way things turn out is really how they were supposed to have turned out. So, moving on, going from that position where it's like I had to like kind of commit, not commit, but like my only acceptance by that day was one school, so I kind of had to say I was going there. Going from that to kind of getting into the school that I'm at now, Temple, getting into it off the wait list, after kind of like not being sure if I was even going to like get any more acceptances. So things like that, I feel like you kind of just need to not be too hard on yourself. I feel like at that point it kind of decreased my morale to the step that I saw myself as less than, in the fact that I didn't really want to ask for anything after that. So like after I like got off the wait list, I was like, okay, I'm just lucky I got in. Like let me just go to the school and like start med school and just start my journey. But really, that was really a position for me to start asking for scholarship money. Like that's really what I should have been doing. But in my mindset, I was just like, ugh, I got off the wait list. I'm just so lucky to be here. Let me just go. So it's like later that I meet people and it's like, yeah, like you definitely could have like advocated for yourself and like asked for scholarship money. Like I got other acceptances off the wait list too. I could have used that as leverage. And these are all things that I knew I was supposed to do. I just didn't do them because my morale was down. I was just like, I'm just lucky. I'm getting into these schools off the wait list, whatever, whatever. Come to find out that there are people who did get off the wait list and still got scholarships and whatever the case may be, because they did the difference, which was advocating for themselves and asking. The worst thing they can say is no. So I would say if things don't go exactly as planned, don't just throw away everything and just throw in the towel. Still keep on crawling, still keep on fighting, and like doing the things you need to do. Something else that I just remember that's also random, not like a big memorable like significant thing, but is like secondaries. Like my secondary applications were so rushed. If you don't know what secondaries are, it's like you have a primary application, then like 8 weeks later or like 10 weeks later, schools send you secondaries, and those are like more essays, and it's like a lot of essays to write at once. And like same thing. Like I knew I was supposed to like start pre-writing secondaries. You can Google the prompts and start pre-writing them and stuff like that. I just didn't do it. I was tired. I had just finished undergrad. I went from finishing undergrad to the next day like studying intensively for the MCAT for 1 month, and then after that, I just spent like 8 weeks just doing nothing. I could have like spent maybe 4 weeks doing nothing, then another 4 weeks like pre-writing a little bit every day. But instead, it turned into me having all these essays to write within a short period of time. So that's just another like gem that I would drop.
Udoka, those were not small random facts. Those were like monumental things. Are you kidding me? Those were you just spent like 5 minutes telling us two random
But that's how
facts.
I talk though. Like I'm a very like long-winded person. Like I ran.
Oh no, but those were so powerful. And the thing is, like, I feel like I've heard you say these things before, but hearing them again was honestly just as impactful as the first time. Those were two really important things. To advocate for yourself every single time is super super important, and to also be on top of yourself when the card with regards to secondaries as well. Yes. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming and sharing your story and being honest and being very vulnerable with me. I really appreciate it. As I said it, I'll say it over and over again. I have always admired you. I will continue to admire you. I'm a fan. You should watch Udoka's TikTok videos. Her pre-med videos and her hair videos are wonderful. Follow her on Instagram and just continue to root for her and send her love. Udoka, thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful day.